Hello everyone, this is Ronnie from UK Fruitfest. In this video, I want to ask or answer the question, are sprouts the healthiest food? In the raw vegan movement, in the raw foods movement, occasionally people have made this claim that sprouts are the most nutritious food and sprouts are the food that we need to add more of to our diet. So I want to look at that a little bit today. And I've written about this in a new book called Raw Vegan Myths Debunked 2, the second part of my Raw Vegan Myths series. And you can get that this week. It's released this week as part of the Ultimate Raw Vegan Bundle. There's a link below this video if you want to check that out. I highly encourage you to go and check that out. And I think that you'll get a lot from the Ultimate Raw Vegan Bundle. So go and have a look at that after this video and get yourself a copy if you think it's worthwhile to you. So, sprouts. Well, and funnily enough, in the Ultimate Raw Vegan Bundle, if you want to learn about sprouts, there's some books there and courses on sprouts and sprouting. So sprouts, to me, I see sprouts as a vegetable, and that's in the raw vegan diet, fruits and vegetables. But they're not a vegetable I particularly enjoy that much. So I choose my diet really on what I enjoy to eat, what I like to eat. I don't choose my diet based on what's nutritious or what supplies certain nutrients. I really don't think about that very much. That's my approach. And that approach really comes from, a lot of it comes from the influence of Dr. Doug Graham, natural hygiene, stuff that I've learned and studied from in that vein. And to me, a lot of the worries people have about nutrition are really unfounded, and some of them have been generated by the supplement industry and so on that want you to worry about not having enough nutrients. So sprouts, Brian Clement, who's a famous raw food educator from Hippocrates Health Institute, runs the Hippocrates Health Institute in Florida, which is a place, really great looking place. I've visited it, but they often avoid fruit and recommend that people don't eat too much fruit. And he recommends that sprouts are one of the healthiest foods, or maybe the most nutritious food. He says, to quote him, out of all land-based foods, land-based, we're kind of a land-based animal. So I don't know if any of you are living in the sea these days, but out of all land-based foods, there's no more nutritious food growing on the soil than a germinated nut, seed, grain, or bean. No more nutritious food. So sprouts aren't really commonly eaten that much. They really kind of come from the raw food movement. I'm not talking about Brussels sprouts for those in the UK. If you think I'm saying sprouts, I mean Brussels sprouts. I don't mean Brussels sprouts. I mean sprouted seeds, sprouted grains. So a lot of people do this. They will grow their own sprouts. They will have a tray. They will, some kind of container. They will water sprouts or whatever and allow them to grow and germinate, and then they'll use them. And you can use them in recipes. You can do certain things with sprouts. They're usually from a grain, bean, or legume. And the idea with sprouting is that these things become edible. And in the form as a grain or bean, they're not really all that edible. And they've got high levels of, certain things that are a little bit toxic or whatever, and that those go down when they sprout. And the idea also being that a sprout is like an undeveloped plant, but it has all that potential and energy to create a plant, so it's full of nutrition, and that's the idea of sprouts. And another benefit people see to sprouts is that it's a living food. So you can grow sprouts in your house in a small space and add that to your diet, and you have this living food, this fresh food. You know when it was grown, and you know that it's as fresh as possible. So that's another good thing. And people might think it's got a kind of life force energy in it because it's a living food. So are they the most nutritious food? Well, it really comes down to the word nutritious and what that even means. You see, the way I look at it is, let's say there was a food that had all the nutrients in unbelievably high levels. Well, wouldn't it be the case in a sense that maybe every animal should eat that? Because every animal kind of needs the same nutrients. So shouldn't that be the most nutritious for every animal? Shouldn't they all eat that food? Wouldn't that be the best for all of them? But that's not the case. Every animal has its own species-specific diet based on its anatomy. And that diet interacts with the body in certain special ways that work for that animal. and that those foods are appealing to that animal in certain psychological and instinctual ways, and the digestion process interacts with those foods. So we have a species-specific diet towards certain foods that are the best for us. So it's not the case that a food just being the highest in nutrition means it's the healthiest. If we're talking about the healthiest food for us, if that's what most nutritious means, then actually what we need to think about is what food provides us with the nutrients we need in the best format possible. And that's really what nutritious should mean. And that's another influence from Dr. Doug Graham. So isn't any truth to this claim that it's the most nutritious? Where does the kind of claim come from? Well, if we do look at sprouts and break them down, what we do find, they are tremendously high in certain nutrients, certain sprouts anyway. So I looked at lentil sprouts. I looked at 1,000 grams of lentil sprouts, and I've put this in the book. And 1,000 grams of lentil sprouts gives you about 1,000 calories. 1,000 calories, so it's pretty high in calories. Now, that's not as high as fats. So if we had any kind of fat, certainly any kind of oil, but any kind of nut would be way higher in calories than sprouts. But 89 grams of protein for 1,000 grams of lentil sprouts, which is more than you need in a day. Helps you get many of the recommended amounts of certain vitamins. And if you compare that to one of the greens, spinach, 1,000 grams of spinach only provides us with 230 calories and only provides 28.6 grams of protein. So if we looked at that, we would say, wow, sprouts appear to have more nutrition than greens in terms of protein and calories. In terms of some of the vitamins and nutrients, they're kind of similar in that they're providing a lot of each, but not the entire spectrum of any. 1,000 grams of bananas gives us 890 calories, but only 9 grams of protein, and actually provides us with less of the vitamins and the minerals and so on than sprouts and than spinach. So bananas even less. So we could make a claim there: sprouts are the most nutritious food of all the raw vegan foods. Not looked at the animal products for that comparison. I didn't actually add nuts and seeds, but they would probably make some good comparisons used. But the thing is, it's a little bit of a simplistic way of looking at things. You see, firstly, in our modern world, getting enough isn't really the problem. People get too much. And the idea that having way more protein that you need is a good thing is not really right. And the idea that having way more minerals than you need is a good thing, or way more vitamins you need, is not really the right thing. What we want is the level that is balanced for us. So if we actually look at these stats and you look at fruit and you say, wow, fruit's kind of low in protein. But when we actually extrapolate that out to a day of eating fruit, if we had a day of eating fruit and a day of eating sprouts, we'd find sprouts would get way too much protein. Fruit, we'd end up getting less than is the recommended amount, but actually would fit almost in line perfectly with what the actual recommended amount should be. See, fruit fits us perfectly. Whereas sprouts might have lots of nutrition and everything, but it doesn't really fit that perfectly. Now, also, it's far easier to eat 1,000 grams of bananas than 1,000 grams of sprouts, I would suggest. Sprouts aren't that easy to eat or flavorful sometimes. That's why people juice them often to try and get that nutrition. But it's a failed concept of nutrition. We really need to get the food that we need in the right balance that's perfectly fit for us. We're looking for, as Dr. Doug Graham says, Goldilocks nutrition, not too much, not too little, the right amount. It tends to be the case that a diet based on fruit and fruits and vegetables tends to get us the right amount. So sprouts, if you want to add them to your diet, healthy food, a vegetable, raw vegan food, they do have nutrients in them. Are they the healthiest food or the most nutritious? Maybe that's up to you to decide. I would suggest that the healthiest foods are the foods that are best aligned for our body, our anatomy. And I see that as being fruit, as being the food that should be the main source of our diet. So if you want to read more on that, you can check out the book Raw Vegan Myths Debunked 2. It's part of the Ultimate Raw Vegan bundle at the moment. if you click on the link below, you can go and see that. If you want to learn more about this diet, if you're looking for an educational resource, this is the best thing around at the moment. Go and check that out. Get it. It's very, very inexpensive, and you get a tremendous amount of information. I think it's many thousands of pounds worth of information for a very small cost. So go and check that out now. I encourage you to go and have a look at it. And thank you very much for watching. Feel free to share this video with others. Comment below, like, share, and so on. Thank you.